Well, that's crazy. My screen is all blue. Sorry. I don't know why it's all blue. And it says it's been broadcasting for, what, 1 hour, 24 minutes? What? That's crazy. I don't understand this thing sometimes. Anyway. It just shows that it's been on for like 1 hour and 24 minutes of 2 hours and 20. I don't know. Anyway. Hi. Happy Sunday. August 3rd. Jesus. Again. I don't know where this time's going. This is me. All the episodes are out. So remember, the only thing you have to do now is go and make comment. You don't even have to watch it if you don't want to watch it. If you don't want to see my pathetic attempt at being a co-star. Being that I hit the cutting room floor for my big finale. Hines apparently hated it, so what can you do? Good evening, Don the Idea Guy. What can I say? Cutting room floor, here I am. So you have to now just go and comment. More Randy. That's it. That's what my ask is. More Randy. So go to the Heinz Verified. Go to Day Trippin'. And indeed, you must go and just comment. Okay? That's all I'm asking. August 3rd, episode 64, day 215, week 32 is here. So this is week 32 of the year. Whew. Crazy. I slept like crap. Sorry. I slept like crap last night. I'm tired. Long day. Don't know why. I will not be staying up and watching TV tonight. I'm going to try and go to bed since I have another work day tomorrow. Worked all day. Another one of those things. That's the way it goes. Let's see what happened. We're going to go with, what do we want to do tonight? Let's start with the things that happened historically. Columbus sailed the ocean blue in 1492. That's today. Today is the day that he left with the Santa Maria, the Pinto, and the Nina to go discover the Indies. Well, we know eventually he discovered us and the United States, North America. And I live in Columbus. So there you go. There's the Columbus connection. Today's the day in 1492 that good old Chris Columbus hit the sails. We used to have a replica of one of those ships, the Santa Maria here. It's rotting somewhere in a field. I mean, it used to be, now it's just somewhere rotting, I'm sure, along with the Serpent Mountain Bridge and everything else that we were going to have at one point, but never quite got here. 1914, Germany invades Belgium, declares war on France, and World War I starts. So it started in the summertime. I didn't know when it started, but apparently today's the day it started. There you go, 1914. Lots of stuff about World War I and World War II. I just avoid that. There's just so much of it. This deaths. It's crazy historically. Not a historian, but man, reading all this stuff, there's, again, lots of stuff. We're a horrible species. If AI does choose that, wow, you guys suck, we're gone. On this day, Harvey Firestone in Akron, Ohio, started what? Firestone Tire and Rubber. Still have Firestone tires, still in Akron, Ohio. And the Goodyear blimp, Goodyear, also an Ohio company. So interesting. All this rubber in Ohio. Who knew? Speaking of Ohio, the first aerial crop dusting happened in 1921 in Troy, Ohio, to combat caterpillars. I found lots of Ohio stuff. I was looking specifically for Ohio-y things. So Troy, Ohio. And in 1936, Jesse Owens, Ohio State University, wins the first of 4 gold medals. He won in the 100-meter in front of Adolf Hitler, and it was obviously a very significant win back then. Lots of history about Jesse Owens' giant win of his 100-meter dash back in 1936. In 1943, General George Patton slaps a GI because he calls him a coward. Yeah, that was in the. You ever watch any Patton movies? They always have to highlight that. Um, that pretty much was the end of that. That kind of took care of him. Took care of Woody Hayes. Woody Hayes, you would have thought that, if Patton can't do it, you can't either, Woody. Come on, buddy. Can't slap people. Even back then, kind of is frowned upon. That's the whole duel thing. White Club, psh, I challenge you to a duel. I don't know. I mean, I can't remember the last time I've been slapped. I've seen it happen. I don't think I've ever been slapped in respect of like a real slap from someone. But I've seen people get slapped, like real deal slaps, and not like, the slap fighting thing, which I don't know if I'd want to be involved in that personally. That seems like that would be really painful. These guys, just like batting each other down with a slap. Not me. Thanks. 1963, the Beatles performed their last show in the famous Cavern Club in Liverpool. I just talked about, I think, was it yesterday? I talked about when they got their residency. What year was that they started their residency? Let's see, residency. It had to be like 60. Okay, there you go. In 61. Okay, so in 61, they started as the house band in the Cavern Club. And 2 years almost to the day, they stopped, and that was the last show. See, I remembered that. It seemed like, wait a second, did we just talk about that yesterday? Speaking of the Beatles, South Africa in 1966 bans the Beatles' music and anything Beatles. Apparently, they did not like them in South Africa in 1966. 1968, Newport Music Festival attracts 100,000 people. Alice Cooper, Grateful Dead, Jefferson Airplane, The Byrds, Tiny Tim, and others. And that's in Mesa, California. Speaking of, we talked about that before, that Bob Dylan in 1965 got booed and angered at the crowd because at the Newport Music Festival he used an electric guitar, the folk festival. Well, he returned back in 2002 for the first time since 65 at the Newport Music Festival. So there you go. 1971, since we were talking about Paul McCartney the other day, he forms the band Wings. So Paul McCartney and Wings was formed in 1971. Shortly after, obviously the Beatles broke up. Shortly after, and he started the Wings. So he kept right on going. Paul McCartney Wings and Paul McCartney doing his things, playing the Beatles stuff. I watched that whole set. It's a 2-hour set. You can see it. YouTube, somebody filmed it. You can see all the songs that he did at Lollapalooza a couple days ago, 10 years ago, in 2015. It was a good set. It was a really good set. They said it was one of the best sets that had happened in Lollapalooza in 25 years. I can agree. I enjoyed that. I remember being that. That was a really fun time. The crowd was singing along and having a great time. Very much a Beatles sing-along for people that never got to see the Beatles. To have that huge crowd do that, I think that would be reminiscent of Beatles of old. Very cool. Inner Visions, 1973, Inner Visions, Stevie Wonder's 16th album was released with songs like Higher Ground on it. Stevie Wonder is a pretty prolific musician for someone who's blind. 16 albums in 71. It's kind of nuts. Or 73. 75, the Louisiana Superdome is dedicated. I don't know if you've ever been to Louisiana Superdome. I went to the Superdome one time. I'm trying to think. Did I go one time? I think I just went one time before I've actually been to the Superdome itself. I went for the Super Bowl right after 9/11 that following year. U2 did the halftime show. It was funny. At the time, my friend Jamie Roots, who I met here, he was the GM of the Columbus Crew. I knew his wife prior to him being married, and he got his tickets. He became the general manager of the Houston Texans, and went down to the Super Bowl in New Orleans, and that was just, I mean, that was as crazy or crazier than my craziest Mardi Gras experience. And I had some crazy Mardi Gras experiences over 20 years. We got down there and we got invited to a Super Bowl party on Bourbon Street. So you could see people on the balcony and stuff, but you couldn't get in. We had to have a secret password. It was almost like Eyes Wide Shut. We had to go to the side street and kind of go around and knock on the door, a little window open up, and we were like, Fidelio. And, so we went in and had our password to get in, and then we had the invite. We were on the guest list to go in this thing. And we walk in the door, and the first person we walk into is Wayne Gretzky. It's like, oh, okay. Like, it's going to be this kind of a party. And then we saw Darius Rucker hooting the Blowfish. Augustus Bush was there, like of the Bush family. It was just crazy. Hugh Hefner was come strolling in the door with like an entourage. It was just this nuts, like over the top party. Like all these stars, all these famous people there. And we're just sitting there getting just cranked up. The funniest thing had to be that we didn't even realize we were there all night. So, like, when we leave, we walked outside, and it's daylight. Because it didn't start till late. But, again, I didn't realize it. So we got out, it was like 7 o'clock in the morning or something like that. And I'm telling you, just stumbling onto Bourbon Street or one of the main thoroughfares in New Orleans at 7 o'clock in the morning, there's nobody there. Because it wasn't like it was Mardi Gras. And it was, like I said, bright and early. So we just kind of stumbled out and we're like, okay, like, oh, we got the Super Bowl in X amount of hours to go to. I remember we stopped and we got Coronas at like some place. It was like, 5 for $5 or something ridiculous. So we just were like, okay, we just got to get our bearings straight and got something to eat with Coronas for breakfast. And then went to the Super Bowl. And then there was a party afterwards. I think it was a party afterwards. Anyway, I just remember we went to the party and the first person, we walk into this parking garage, and the Super Bowl itself was just crazy because after 9/11, so they had like National Guard troops there with, like automatic weapons, like set in different partitions, and the thing was zoned off in these giant concentric circles around it where you had different areas to go through, where they made even all the people go through these very narrow walkways. It was really kind of crazy how confined it was and how protected it was to get into the inner circle of the actual Superdome. But I remember we went to this party, and it was, again, because my friend Jamie hooked us up with this stuff. And we went to this after party, and they had like sushi and lobster, and they had like this Super Bowl candle on the table shaped like a football, and you got like champagne when you came in the door, and like I remember going back and getting multiple glasses of it. So I still have some of the glasses somewhere. I know a couple of them survived. I could probably go in the back room and go grab one. A couple of them survived because they made it back. But I don't know. I mean, we were probably there an hour, if not. And I just remember we looked at each other and we were just like, "Are you done?" I'd be like, "So done," and just left. Like we were just like, we can't do it anymore. It was just so wiped out. It was like this, 2-day, 3-day, just Vegas, 24/7, nonstop, just go, 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 just overwhelming experience. I mean, the Super Bowl itself, we had my seats. When we got there, my assigned seats was the last row of the Super Bowl up top. I go like this and touch the wall of the Superdome. I was like, okay, well, we got in for free or whatever. And then got a call and said, it'll come down. And we went down and we were much lower and we sat with Jamie. I remember we got beer spilled on us by a couple of guys that were behind us. Wow, like jumping and throwing beers and got mad. And then at some point we were just like, okay, there's no way to not deal with this. So just soaked with beer, and it just was it was one of those, just the details of it as I think more about it, just so much crazy crap happened. And again, all the stars and celebrities we saw because we had like different access to different stuff. Like Don Shula, the first person I run into when I go open the door, there's somebody holding the door, but I'm like, oh, hi. I'm like, oh, wait, you're Don Shula. And he goes, yes, I am. And I'm like, okay. It's like, well, let me hold the door. I got the door for you. I'm like, okay, thanks. But it was just, just kind of crazy stuff like that. And, just one of these very, very over-the-top experiences that you just sort of, you don't remember. I have all sorts of, like, trinkets from it. Because, like, you get a lot of crap. They have, like, a seat cushion. Everyone got a seat cushion. There was a thing in it and a bag, and there's a magnet and like just souvenirs like packed inside this thing that everyone got. And the tickets were like $800 a piece back then. I mean, I know there's so much more now. But yeah, it was just really incredible experience. So that was my experience with the Louisiana Superdome and its dedication. Not that I was at the dedication, but that happened in 1975. So there is my Louisiana Superdome sidetrack story. 1977, Radio Shack introduces the PC personal computer, the TRS-80, and thousands are sold within months and ordered because everyone wanted the PC. Good old Tandy Company. I used to go to Radio Shack and have a bunch of crap from Radio Shack. I bet if I dig in one of my junk bins here in one of these drawers, I know that in this right here, thing it says electrical, and it's under here it says cable phone. There's absolutely things from Radio Shack in there. I guarantee it. There's something I can find. Like, there it is, a Radio Shack product. Probably still something in a blister pack even. Because that would be the only place to get the things like XLR cable connectors. If you wanted to get like a male-female XLR connector, or you wanted to get like a 1/4-inch adapter and stuff, now you can get them other places. But that was the place to get it. Radio Shack was the place. So yeah, I definitely liked Radio Shack. 1981, the air traffic controller strike, 13,000 strikes. And that was, I remember Reagan said something where it was like, you need to get back to work in 48 hours or everybody that doesn't is fired. And I think then a law was passed so they can't strike anymore. That we just talked about that recently because there was a air traffic controller again. We have the lack of them and planes crashing into each other over the Potomac, helicopters and planes, and the whole air traffic thing came up again. Air travel has changed so much. When it gets to September 11th, I have the craziest, and I mean, this is probably on the scale of one of the top 10 craziest stories about air travel that I have. Well, it's probably the craziest story I have about air travel personally, but this is like nuts. It really is, and I'm not going to go into it tonight because it's a detailed story that could easily take 45 minutes to an hour, just because the whole adventure was just over the top. But air travel used to be so different. I mean, I remember getting on a plane and everyone's smoking. I mean, you get into a freaking tube. It's a smoke-filled tube. I remember, I think I've talked about it, I had a friend that worked for the airlines, and she got us vouchers. And they were basically like a blank ticket that had red carbon copy underneath it. And you could go to the airport. We would sit there and go, okay. And we did. We went to Los Angeles. Like, okay, so flight 723, departing EWR, arrival, LAX, blah, blah, blah. And basically walk up to the counter and go, here you go. And they'd be like, okie dokie. I mean, no one signed it. It was nothing. It was just this blank ticket, like a doctor's prescription pad that you could fill out. And I just filled it out, and lo and behold, flew to LA. There you go. And even specifically on that trip to LA, flying back to New York got socked in with fog. And on top of that, we were like on the plane, we're going to be delayed. They let us off the plane, okay? And unfathomable. Okay, we're going to open the bar for you. There was a bar at the end of the terminal, and they just opened up and let us just sit there and drink in the bar. And they just paid for drinks until we could get back on the plane. It wasn't like you're stuck in that plane, you couldn't move because you're sucked in. No. Get off. The bar's open. We're going to open the bar and let you just hang out. And then we got back on the plane and then flew the red-eye home. It was like, okay. So imagining being stuck in a plane for 4 or 5 or 6 hours. They didn't do that. They're like, oh, yeah, we'll get you off the plane. Here, have some cocktails. Stretch your legs. You're cool. Go to the bathroom. Get some snacks. Then we'll get you back on the plane. I mean, that's just like People's Express, flying for like $25 to go to Boston for the day. It was standby. You just flew standby. You go to the airport, do. Okay, we got 3 available. Here you go. Here's my $12 one-way ticket. And flew to Boston for 4th of July. Flew there that day, got lobster, got good old chowder, went to a party, and then flew home. Packed commuter flight going up. On the way home, it was me, my friend Scott, Poodle Doo Scott, and 2 dudes, business dudes, that were just, they couldn't even speak. They were so drunk. Stewardess was like, whatever, and just goes into the cockpit and just left us alone on the plane the entire flight back from Boston to Newark. Unsupervised. I did ransack the plane. I won't lie, and we did find the drink cart. We're like, oh, well, make drinks. She never came out. They never even checked on us. Just left us 4 people in the entire plane. And these 2 dudes never left the seat. They were just laughing so hard the whole time. I don't think they could even stand. But yes, air travel has changed drastically since those days in the 1980s compared to today, where you've got to have a star on your driver's license and everything else. And, your eyes get checked because they want to make sure it's you and you're getting through that whole security thing. Very different, very different. But again, I will absolutely tell the story of 9/11 when it gets closer, because it's nuts. And even crazier, speaking of crazy travel air, I have an old antique Vespa that I flew out to pick up. And I'll tell that story too. I'm going to have to remember to share that one. But yeah, I flew out again with just the whole occurrence of that was, again, one of those crazy, just, there you go. Nope, no problem. You're all good. Like, okay. Didn't even think twice about it. Where now, the stuff that I did, not even close. I couldn't even get through security or even in the airport at this point. So, different, very different. Unforgiven was released on this date. Clint Eastwood, Gene Hackman, and Morgan Freeman. Speaking of Morgan Freeman in 2008 was involved in a very serious car accident where he rolled his car multiple times and he was seriously injured in Ruleville, Mississippi. Speaking of Morgan Freeman. That happened in 2008. 1999, Patsy Cline is posthumously given a Hollywood star. Good old Patsy Cline. 2004, the Statue of Liberty reopened as it closed just after September 11th of 2001. 2021, Tony Bennett celebrates his 95th birthday with 2 shows at Radio City Music Hall with Lady Gaga. He lived for 2 more years, so Tony Bennett lived to be 97 years old. Not bad. And then the crazy thing is, this just happened today, 2025, the Krasnodarkov, butchered it, not a good Russian, volcano erupted in Kamalachkaba, Russia. I mean, it hasn't erupted for 600 years, but they're thinking it's because of that 8.8 earthquake the other day. It kind of awokened this volcano, and this volcano erupted. There was also a 3.2 earthquake in New Jersey, and there was an earthquake in Mexico. As someone who took geology, according to me, if you think about it, plate tectonics are, as they say they are, and it's a globe, not flat, sorry flat earth people, but it's a globe and all the pieces are interconnected. If one piece shifts drastically over here, then everything else kind of has to reconnect and resettle. So that would make sense to me that you have earthquakes all over the place because, it's like a puzzle. If you crunch one of the puzzle pieces up, aren't the other puzzle pieces want to kind of flex back and figure out how to get back to normal so it's round again? That's my take on it. I'm sure someone, many years from now is going to come out with this very scientific paper that says, that's what happens. And be like, yeah, I kind of said that. I always thought there was a black hole in the center of the universe because we're swirling around something. Wouldn't that be a black hole? I mean, I always wondered that. And now, of course, they say, there's a black hole in the center of our universe, and that's what we swirl around. I was like, okay, I guess. I just didn't write a giant scientific paper about that. Who knew, right? You never know. Let's see. Birthdays today. Tony Bennett, because, right, it was his 95th birthday when he got celebrated a couple of years ago with Lady Gaga. So, right, Tony Bennett. John Norris of the Byrds, his birthday. Morris B.B. Duncan of War. John Grimm, Earth, Wind, and Fire. My handwriting is atrocious sometimes when I just get lazy. I'm just kind of like, I'm like, oh, I'll remember it. I totally won't screw that up. Yeah, I totally screw that one up too. Martin Atkins, Nine Inch Nails, his birthday. Lee Rocker of Stray Cats. Ed Roland of Collective Soul. This one I can read. James Hetfield of Metallica. It's his birthday. Now, I have a crazy video. Lollapalooza just ended. Tonight's the last night of Lollapalooza 25. When I was at Lollapalooza and Metallica played, I got, they have multiple wristbands. There was all sorts of different colored ones. And I somehow got my hands on a black wristband. I think I got it from one of the promoters that I was there. And the black band allowed you to go pretty much into the inner sanctum, where they had a bunch of, there's again, like concentric rings of security around like where these VIP can go into. So it's like sort of general public and then paid VIPs and then like, the producers and stuff, and then like the invited guests only VIPs where it's friends and family kind of things. And I got to go into that little circle world there. And the band allowed me to go to the soundboard for Metallica. So I was at the soundboard for Metallica, and they had all these, and I still have one. They had these giant blow-up black beach balls that said Metallica on them. And when they started to play it, that they were like bouncing into the crowd, and it was walking. And I literally walked down the center. There's always an aisle at big shows like that where they have the cabling run. So there's people on either side of me, and I'm inside the center walking right to the stage. It's in one of the videos somewhere. But literally starting from the soundboard, walked right into the stage. I got bonked with one of the balls, knocked my phone out of my hand. And then I kind of like walked off the stage, to looking at the crowd as it's happening. But yeah, that was just one of those crazy, crazy things, Metallica shows. My friend Erin, who works for C3, who manages Metallica, she's been to tons of shows, and we got to stand backstage or side stage for a couple of Metallica shows, and always a really good time. And Hetfield's a nice enough guy, just kind of rock star guy. Only met him very briefly and never really had a conversation, but just nice enough in the grand scheme of things. Freeman usually wears a glove on his left hand and moves as soon as the accident and movement damage, pain caused by accident. Okay, wow, there you go. Didn't realize that. Damn it. See, I looked away for a second because Don got me to look away. As I looked down, I didn't see the thing. There you go. Usually wears a glove on his left hand, moving since the accident addressed nerve damage and pain caused by the accident. Okay, there you go. Well, I'll have to look for that then. I'll have to pay attention to that. That makes perfect sense. Interesting. Stephen Carpenter of Deftones' birthday. Martin Sheen from Dayton, Ohio is his birthday. Martha Stewart it's her birthday. I can't read that at all. I'm not going to worry about it. Just not. Deaths were very limited today. I only found a couple. Lenny Bruce. Today is the anniversary of the death of Lenny Bruce. Carolyn Jones, who was Morticia Addams in the original black and white Addams Family. Carolyn Jones. Christopher Hewitt was Mr. Belvedere. He was an English actor. He passed away on this day. And Mark Margolis Mark Margolis. I didn't know the name, so I had to look it up. It was Hector Salamanca from Breaking Bad. Remember that? He had a little bell. Ding, 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 ding. Yes, Hector Salamanca. He's been in other things that I think I've seen him in, but that's obviously the role that I'll remember him from. I fell down some of these sites have all these things that things that kids could do in the 1960s that they can't do today. So they had a list of things, so that I read like 10 of them. So I read like 100 different things, and I only put down a couple interesting ones, and kind of looked at some of them to see how true they were. So things you could do in the 60s that you can't do today. So the kids that grew up in the 60s, since I kind of grew up in the 60s, I was teeny weeny. But anyway, pickup truck beds. So you could ride in pickup trucks. Now you can't. So about 30 states have laws against riding with pickup truck beds. A lot of them have age restrictions, can't be under 16. And some have no rules, like 20 don't have rules at all. Southern states, so right away, have some fun. But so there are rules about pickup truck riding. I remember we used to go to church in the back of the station wagon, and they would just throw us around in the back of the station wagon because we all want to do that. Yay, let's go! And taking the sharp turns on the back streets, and the parents would crash against the walls because that was fun. That's what we wanted to do. Forget the seatbelts. Let's get thrown around the back of the station wagon. Or even better yet, I remember when the neighbor kids used to ride in the trunk. They used to go to get the slushies. They would go, "Oh, can we go in the trunk? Yeah, let's go in the trunk." And they would literally go ride in the trunk of the car, like kidnap victims. And they wanted to. So yeah, you can't really do that these days. People would definitely be like, "There's kids in the trunk." Lawn darts. I have lawn darts. I was going to grab them. I'm going to have to, if I have more time, I have to grab these things. But I have lawn darts. I have a set of lawn darts that I got at a yard sale somewhere. But yes, lawn darts, they outlawed those things because, man, you definitely can be killed by them. They're big and heavy. And they're definitely pointy enough to bonk you in the brain and kill you. But yeah, you don't have lawn darts anymore. There are all sorts of other yard games, but not that. Fireworks. Yeah, you could just go get fireworks as a kid. I've told the story that we used to go to New York City. We used to take the train and just go to Chinatown and go buy insane explosives. Just stuff that, I would clearly be put away in alligator Alcatraz as most other kids would for possessing these things. Because it was no big deal. It was just, fireworks. Kids will be kids. Don't worry about it. Don't blow up your hands, kids. Right. Like firecracker fights, just doing stupid crap like that. Playing cops and robbers, and then you can't get away with that so much anymore. We used to have all sorts of replica-looking black guns and stuff. Man, you do that again, you're gonna get shot. So yeah, that's kind of one of those true things. Bike helmets? We didn't wear bike helmets. We just wrecked. We just wrecked on our Schwinn Stingrays and everything else, and all sorts of other crazy crap. But yeah, you have to have bike helmets these days. I saw that the other day. I was like, these kids are riding these, obviously these were upwardly mobile kids. I was up in one of the suburbs because they have these big fat-wheeled electric bikes. But yeah, they all had helmets on, and they were all looking cool with their helmets, riding around the shopping center. But I was like, yeah, I guess you have to. That is the law. They'll get busted by the cops who will, be not cool about not having a helmet on. But we didn't even think about wearing helmets. Skiing, no helmets. Bike riding, no helmets. Hell, when we ride motorcycles, we didn't wear helmets. I mean, you go down to the train tracks and put pennies on the tracks, which now again, you go near the train tracks and man, you're busted for trespassing. CRX will, nail you against a wall for that. We used to go down to the Pigeon Bridge and flatten pennies all the time. And, there was a L'Oreal Lancome. There was a production facility in where I grew up. And we would go on the weekends and go dumpster diving. And if they dropped a case of nail polish, they would throw it away. Even if it was good, just like one was broken because it was drippy, they would just throw the whole case away. So we would take the other, 22 out of it. And go sell them, at Sunday flea markets. And what we had left, we'd go down to Pigeon Bridge and we'd go throw them against the wall and just splatter them against the, this giant concrete wall that I'm sure to this day is still covered in, hundreds, if not thousands of, broken glass nail polishes that we would just throw there. But, can't do that these days, man. Trespassing, theft, everything. Just get hammered for that kind of stuff. Like I said, seatbelts. Yeah, we didn't have seatbelts in the 60s. My mom used to put her arm out. And they'd just, if she went to stop, suddenly just do boop. She put the arm out like she was going to stop me or something. I still remember that. That was always hilarious. Like, yes, I'll stop you. Like, no, that's not going to do it. Because, yeah, seatbelts, you had lap belts, but nobody, put your seatbelt on. It wasn't a thing. Tree houses. Yeah, we built tree houses. Nobody cared, You just kind of grabbed some old boards and rusty nails and you hammered them against a tree and just nailed boards against the tree, something you could climb that kind of moved as you went up, and you made a tree house. It was in the backyard, and it was, there was no permits needed. There was no neighborhood associations or HOAs that are saying, you can't have that. That's definitely one of those things that's that. Go-karts? I have a go-kart. It's in my garage. But we used to really drive the go, just drive it out the front yard, drive it up to the school, drive it in the streets. Nobody complained. It wasn't like the cops were like, just don't drive down the street with cars. But you drove down the sidewalk, you went up on the grass in people's yards, whatever. Go-karts. So definitely some things have changed in that respect. Just the ridiculous. I have my family's old set of lawn darts. We'll have to hold a tournament. Yes, the Don't Die Lawn Dart Tournament. We will definitely have to have a lawn dart tournament. And as long as it's, there's no sprinkler heads that we're going to hit or puncture when we land into the grass, because those things are going to go in like this deep, You hit my sprinkler head. I got water spraying everywhere. What else? Oh, yeah. There was a couple other things, but like one of them was construction sites. Yeah, you should just climb around and bop around a construction site. Nobody really cared. Now it's trespassing and vandalism and everything else. Even if you're just like, oh my God, let's go sit in the front end loader because it was kind of cool. You were a kid. You want to go get on this giant construction equipment. Nobody seemed to care. It wasn't like they were patrolling at night, like, oh, we're going to bust your ass. Whatever. You kids shouldn't be up there. Okay. But nobody was like calling 911 on you for doing that. And then, of course, the last one was BB guns. I mean, everyone had a BB gun. Everyone had the Daisy BB gun, the single crank one, for plinking cans and whatever else. Again, now I think they're way too realistic looking because, they look like a rifle. One of, 911's called and shoot first, ask questions later. It was a BB gun. That's all it was. So, yeah, lots of stuff that I took, like I said, there was list about 100 things that I was like, But, yeah, they definitely pulled a few of them off that. Yeah, there's definitely things you can't do. The whole feral children thing. That was the summertime was for feral children. Okay, we'll see you later. We're going to go on our bikes and go play. And you were gone from, whatever time in the morning until, the lights went on. The street lights went on. 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock at night. So you're gone 12 hours doing whatever with no supervision. And what did you do today? Nothing. Had fun. Okay. That was it. No details, no cell phones, no direct connection to anything all day long. And, like I said, we would jump on the train, go into New York City, go ride motorcycles, do whatever mischievous things you did as a kid. Can't do those things anymore. That just doesn't work like that. All right, so today was hair gloss day. I did look. It's like lip gloss. Never heard of hair gloss personally before in my life. I've heard of hairspray, hair products, but never hair gloss. So I guess it's like lip gloss, and you put it in your hair to make your hair glossy. I kind of read it, and it kind of glossed over it. But I was like, I didn't care. National Sisters Day. Well, I guess that means if it's a sister for another female for sisters. Not like boy, like I have a sister, but it's not Sisters Day. It's if you're girl with a sister. I was like, oh, well, that's kind of crappy. So anyway, I didn't call my sister that. I called her the other day. Mead Day, National Mead Day. Did not have any mead. Just because. National Georgia Day, the fourth state introduced into the Union. That's today on this date. Grab some nuts day. I did grab some nuts earlier and had some. Very good in protein. Now, I realize that I always forget this. It was a mixed nuts, and I ate a Brazilian nut. And I'm like, wait, I can only have a couple. Because unknown, most people don't realize Brazil nuts, while delicious and healthy because they have psyllium in them, you can't have too many because you can have psyllium toxicity. So you're only supposed to eat like 3 in a sitting. That's it in a day. Max. Have like 1 to 3 because you can have psyllium toxicity. So Google it. If you don't believe me, they're good and healthy for you. But yeah, you don't want to have too many because they're basically poisonous at some point, which is everything is. There was a list of stuff that I read once about, what is everything poisonous, and everything is. If you have too much sugar, it's poison. If you eat too much chocolate, it's poisonous. In one sitting, it's a lot of it in some instances. But yeah, but Brazil nuts, not that many. Only supposed to have about 3, because they're big nuts anyway. But just so you know, that's the nut story. National Friendship Day and National Watermelon Day. Who knew? Tomorrow's an easy one. Tomorrow is National Coast Guard Day and National Chocolate Chip Cookie Day. I probably have a chocolate chip cookie at least on a daily basis. I get the Costco ones. They come in they're like the individual little plastic sleeves, because when you put them in a jar, they kind of get melty and you have one big giant chunk of chocolate chips. But yes, so I will take a picture of my jar of chocolate chip cookies. I might even have one when I leave this and go right upstairs and get a chocolate chip cookie. You never know. Just because. That, right there. Go to it. Make a comment. There's 9 episodes. Make comments on all 9 episodes. If everybody makes comments on 9 episodes, we should have 1,000 comments on there at some point. And they should all be about more Randy. And maybe we can persuade them to create something where there's more me. Just saying. That's my ask. I'm going to continue to ask that. Just go there, make a comment. If you don't want to watch it, don't watch it. But you have to make a comment. Okay? That's what I'm asking you to do. Make a comment. All right. All right, so it's Sunday. Tomorrow is Monday. Work day for most everybody, including myself. TV's really loud. I can hear it down here. All right, well, I'm going to go have a chocolate chip cookie because it's almost chocolate chip cookie day. I'll have one anyway. And then I'm going to go to bed, and I'll get up and do this again tomorrow. I'm going to maybe spend an hour tomorrow. I was looking at trying to get more AI videos. You saw the one I did last night. That one, again, was kind of crazy. Again, it's this one, which is just nuts. This I just found was that just to be, because it looks so realistic compared to so the picture is the very beginning. This is the beginning. That's the picture that I have in my office of me skiing off the North Rim in Vail, Colorado, and this is what AI did to it. It made it look like I landed, which is crazy. Crazy. So yeah, that's using the picture I already had. It cost nothing. That was freebie because you can have a trial offer, and I was like, wow. So imagine what you can do when you have money to pay for this stuff. Slop. AI slop is what it's called, I guess. We can just start making these crazy slop things. So, I don't know. Who knows, man? Who knows? We're going into uncharted waters here. So crazy. Anyway, appreciate you. Thank you so much. Appreciate your friends. Again, don't forget, like and subscribe to this one. then we have to make sure that we're doing that, because it's stuck at 602, so I have to post stuff there. So maybe I'll start posting shorts there to begin with, and doing something. I don't know. I need a consultant. I'll have to meet with Don and his big yellow sticky notes and talk about it. But that's it. Have a good evening. Appreciate you all. Fade to black.